Hello one and all, this is Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. This time around, Cyberpunk 2077 for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, Google Stadia, and eventually the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series S and X. One of the most highly anticipated games of 2020 has finally arrived, and it is a mixed bag of fun and flaws. But from the fun perspective, you get to play as a customizable character, though the customization options aren't as grandiose, especially when it comes to the facials, as say even Fallout 4, which is a game that is very similar to this in regards of the presentation. From a first-person perspective, the RPG elements that are associated with this game. Before creating your custom character, you're given the option of choosing one of three classes, be it Nomad, Street Kid, or Corporate. And each of these classes, of course, have different varying abilities. I've tried out each three, and I've noticed that the biggest difference really happens in the opening sequence, the introductory sequence, where each one has a very specific introductory sequence. While the Nomad starts off in the desert, the Street Kid starts off directly in the heart of Night City. But then after that, it pretty much becomes the same for every character. The only difference now is the stats, is the abilities that are connected to the class that you've chosen. Beyond the specific class abilities are also skill trees, there are also perks, there are also grandiose abilities that connect to not only preserving your body, like regenerating health during combat, to being able to hack certain objects like video screens to distract enemies. Depending on where you put your skill points into, you may have an easier chance of unlocking a door that will be locked otherwise, or even talking your way out of a nasty situation. Once again, very similar to what we've seen in the Bethesda Fallout games. From a gameplay perspective, especially when it comes to the shooting mechanics, I thoroughly have enjoyed Cyberpunk thus far. I think the shooting mechanics are very well done. They feel tight without being too restrictive. The variety of guns you can pick up off of fallen bodies are numerous right at the beginning. And it's amazing, which is one thing that, unlike the Fallout games where you're kind of restricted to what guns you can really utilize early in the game, you can pretty much use anything that you're able to get your hands on right at the beginning, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and it really opened up a world when it came to the combat scenarios that I didn't expect so early in the game. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the melee combat doesn't feel that good. It's very loose. It's very similar to a lot of melee combat in first-person games where it feels like you can't really get a good focus on your opponent and your limbs are flailing here and there. I do appreciate the blocking mechanics though when it comes to melee combat. If you block right as the opponent is about to hit you, you can create a counter punch attack or a counter slash attack if you're wielding something like a katana. That I think works really well. That's, to me, the best aspect of the melee system and the melee combat. The stealth system is pretty much stereotypical what you would expect. Hide behind walls, sneak around, get behind a guard, choke them out or kill them, and dump them into a nearby dumpster if you can. You can't stack bodies in a dumpster like you could in Hitman per se, but it still works nonetheless. The driving mechanics are a mixed bag. For some reason to me, in the city, I didn't care for the driving. It feels a little too loose. When I was playing as a Nomad and you were in the open desert, it felt really fun to play. It felt really fun to drive. From a presentation standpoint, I feel thus far the narrative is really good. I like the characters that I've interacted with thus far. It comes across very well. One of the things about this game is the fact that you're pretty much thrust into the world without really any backstory or build-up. You just so happen to be in that moment. And you have to figure out as you go along, and I actually do appreciate that. It feels like the world is a lot bigger and more grandiose and living, that this world has existed way before you even came into it, and I appreciate that. I think it actually works, and it does better because it feels like you're creating an avatar that really is about to be shaped by the world instead of the world shaping the avatar, and then you happen to have the chance to play as that character. From a technical standpoint, this is where the game really falls apart. I played it both on a PS4, the base PS4, and on a PlayStation 5. And I found that on the PS4 there were a lot of muddy textures. The frame rate drops were tremendous. I mean, incredible frame rate drops. Just moving around the world, there would be times when the game would actually hiccup and pause, and I would think it was about to crash, and it wouldn't, and then it would finally catch itself up. A lot of problems when it comes to just optimization. I had quite a few hard crashes playing the PS5 version. For some reason, it seemed like I would play for half an hour and then it would crash. I would play for an hour and a half and it would be no problems. I would save the game, come back a little while later, turn it back on, and it would crash in the first 5 minutes. Like, it was so inconsistent in how the game operated, why it would crash, when it would crash, that I was scared the whole time that I was playing on the PS5. And hopefully with further patches this will be less of a problem, but right now I will warn anyone that is playing this game to save constantly. I also had some graphical issues when it came to the PS5 version, like characters doing the T-pose, and one mission for some reason just went haywire when the character that I was supposed to confront somehow identified me from the room below and just started shooting. But it continuously shot, and it just kept going on and on and on until I reloaded the save, and then it fixed itself. Overall, I am enjoying it. That's the thing. I actually want to love this game a lot more than I do. And one of the reasons I don't love it as much as I should love it is because of the technical issues. It's because of the inconsistencies when it comes to hard crashes on the PS5, or just the overall optimization issues when it comes to the PS4 version. I want to love this game so much more, but technically it is flawed. It is hurt by the technical issues. If you're interested in Cyberpunk 2077, make sure you have an Xbox Series S or X or PS5. I would not suggest you playing this game on a base PS4. I've heard issues on the PS4 Pro as well, and definitely not on the Xbox One. I've heard issues on that as well. If you don't have a next-gen console, if you don't have a PS5, if you don't have a high-end PC, if you don't have an Xbox Series S or X, I would suggest that you wait until you have those consoles, or just wait until the next-gen version actually releases. But if you can't wait, I will warn you, once again, this game is flawed technically. You will struggle to play it on a base 8th generation console, and you may even struggle to play it on the PS4 Pro or the Xbox One X. So there you have it. This has been Soulful Lordy, James Bullock, once again with another video game first impressions. Cyberpunk 2077 for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Google Stadia, PC, and eventually the PS5 and the Xbox Series S and X. And if you don't mind, I'm going to try to re-enter Night City. Hopefully the game won't implode on itself and just ruin a grandiose mission. And if I just so happen to interact with a person who split themselves into two bodies and have to fight them, they will have no choice but to say, "Oh Lordy."